What's going on, guys? We are back here, second video of the season, documenting my journey to the championship. Draft is in the books. It was a good one. Good timing. I think we went about 2.5 hours or so. I think that's what you would expect. In the draft, the timer was loosely enforced. We didn't really have to pull it on anybody, which was nice this year. We kept things moving. And to start things off, I think my initial thoughts I'll give you. I thought I killed it. I think I have the best draft this year. But there are some good ones. We're going to take it in this video. We're going to go each team pick by pick. I'm going to rank the ones I like, the ones I don't like, the ones that I'm neutral about, and we're going to go with that. I'm going to do the on paper rankings for who I thought had the best drafts, and then I'm going to go with my personal analysis of who I thought had the best drafts. So let's get to it. All right, so first up, Jordan at the 101 going Zeke. I like it. Second pick, Mike Evans. The pick after Chris Godwin goes, I'm not a big fan of it. I give that a thumbs down. Todd Gurley, third round. I give that a thumbs down as well. DK Metcalf, I'm neutral on. I think, that's a good pick. I can't really hate it there, but he's just tough with Tyler Lockett there. It's like, is he the 1A or the 1B? I think there were better options at the 4, so I'm going neutral on that one. Dak, I like. Jordan Howard, obviously, why would you want the Miami running back in the 6th round, especially? I think that's a bad pick. AJ Green, I'm neutral on. We'll see what happens this year. He's not a guy that I wanted. Just too injury prone. You don't know with him with the year off. Rojo in the 8th, I like. Rojo was a guy that I think I talked about in my last video. I was eyeing in the 5th round prior to the Fournette trade. So he's still the number 1 there. I mean, really can't say with what Arians is saying. Arians says he's still the guy, but they bring in Fournette. Obviously, something's up. So I think 8th round, that's a decent value for him. I like that pick. Sanders, I'm neutral on. John Brown, neutral. Tony Pollard, neutral. I don't really feel strongly about them. Brian Edwards, I like that pick. I think that the Raiders' offense is going to be better this year than it was last year. I like him as a player, so he's good. Greg the Leg was the first kicker off the board, but Dallas's offense could finish as the 1, 2, or 3 offense this year, so I like that pick. Dallas defense, I like that pick a lot too. They brought in that guy from Minnesota. I can't think of his name right now, but I like that pick, 14th round. Blake Jarwin, I'm neutral on that. I think that the Cowboys offense is going to be good, but I still think he's probably the number 4 or 5 target on that team. Depending on how involved Zeke's going to be in the passing game. So I'm not going to thumbs down that pick, but I think that there were better options at the tight end there. Also, Jordan took how many Cowboys players? Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to see how that works out. Week 10, I think he's just declared the L that week, but we'll see how that goes. So let's bring up Andrew next, and we'll move this around. Andrew, I liked Andrew's draft a lot, honestly. CMC, I like that. Obviously, you can't hate that. The 102. Godwin, I liked a lot. And I talked about in my last video how Godwin I considered kind of my panic option in the 206. If there weren't any running backs that I liked, I would probably go Godwin, and he took him as the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide receiver off the board. I like that a lot. Then he went Chris Carson, early 3rd. I think that's right about where Chris Carson should go. I like that pick. Bobby Trees in the 4th. I like that pick a lot. I think I was texting Jordan some big facts about him recently. I think Robert Woods could finish as a top 10 wide receiver this year, so I really like that pick in the 4th. Ertz, I'm not really that into that pick. With Dallas Goedert kind of looming over him as like the 1B for their tight end scheme. Just not that into it personally. But at that point, I had already taken Waller, so Ertz was the 5th tight end off the board, and I think you realistically got to consider Ertz he clearly was the fifth ranked tight end, so I mean, to each his own on that pick. I personally just am not into it. David Montgomery in the 6th. I'm kind of neutral on that. I think that the injury is definitely a big red flag, but obviously if he comes back and doesn't re-injure it, then that pick probably pays off. So I'm going to leave myself as neutral. Same with DeAndre Swift. I wanted to give this a thumbs down, but I like Swift. He was a player I was targeting a lot prior to the injury and then AP coming in. So I'm going to be neutral on that. Jamison Crowder, I like that in the 8th. Good floor play. At that point in the chapter, you're kind of reaching for upside, so he wasn't a person I was big into. I liked him in that range, but he wasn't a player I was personally targeting. Chase Edmonds, my cuff, in the 9th. I mean, I think that's a bit of a reach. Chase Edmonds is probably the best cuff. Hold on, the dog. All right, we back. Had to make sure no one was breaking into the house. So I think we were at Chase Edmonds. Yeah. So, I mean, he's probably the best cuff because Drake's never really been the guy for a full season start to finish. I think the 9th round, personally for me, I think that's just a little early to be taking running back cuffs. I think there was still a lot of wide receiver talent at that range, but I don't hate the picks. So who knows? It might be a guy trying to trade for this year. We'll see. Boston Scott. Or who we got next? Chris Thompson in the 10th. Kind of neutral about it. Jay Gruden guy. You don't know what the Jags offense is going to look like this year. Fournette did catch a lot of passes last year. He didn't do anything with them, but he caught a lot of passes. So maybe Chris Thompson fills in that role. Boston Scott, I'm kind of neutral on as well. Miles Sanders is hurt to start the season, so that's not a bad pick. I think that's about where you should be taking him. Pittsburgh defense was the 3rd defense off the board. Good pick, can't hate it. I think for me though, 12th, a little early to be taking the defense. I was planning on going defense no earlier than the 13th, so I'm just going to be neutral on that one. And then to close it out, Butker, Curtis Samuel, I like both those picks. Butker is the 2nd kicker off the board too. In the 13th, I think that's good. And then he did take my boy Joe Burrow. I was coming around in the 15th round. That was my target there, who I was trying to take. And a bit of a snipe there, I guess, 4 picks before me. So we'll see how that plays out. I like Burrow a lot this year. And then let's bring in Jared. Jared, I thought, had an okay draft. So Saquon, obviously, at the 3, you got to be very happy with that. DeAndre Hopkins, I'm just not into this year. It's his first year with a new quarterback, new offense. Wide receivers never do well in their first year on a new team. So, I mean, at that point, I'm basically deducting that because I thought Godwin would have been a much better pick there. I think Hopkins, I probably would have felt more comfortable going early 3rd round, not necessarily the tail end of the 2nd. Mahomes, early 3rd, can't hate that. Got to be neutral on that. Mark Ingram, when you really look at it, is kind of just like Jordan's team last year. Just he kind of cruised off that hyper efficiency and then did nothing in the postseason. So Mark Ingram's a guy, when you look at his numbers last year, he had super good red zone efficiency. He's not going to repeat that this year. The Ravens running backs are uninvolved in the passing game because Lamar just rushes. So I think the 4th round, that's a bad pick. Tyler Lockett, I'm neutral on. Basically the same things I said about DK for Jordan's team. It's kind of just like, is he the 1A or the 1B? I mean, I personally owned Tyler Lockett last year, and down the stretch when DK Metcalf started to emerge, he was not a fun guy to have on your team because he's a guy that you really had to throw out there, but he would get like 3 to 5 targets a game sometimes, and he would catch maybe 3 passes and get a touchdown in there, and it all would work out. But that's not a guy that you're like excited about starting every week. So next, Edelman I like in the 6th. Brandon Cooks I like in the 7th. He was a guy that I probably would have taken coming around to my pick in the 7th had he fallen to me. I think that's just a very high upside play there. Not that I'm expecting Brandon Cooks to have a huge year. I think he has the upside definitely. So I think that's a range where you're kind of shooting for upside. I like that pick. Tim Coleman, I don't really have any thoughts on that. Just neutral. Darius Slayton, I think of all the Giants running backs, he's the one I would go after. Or wide receivers, he's the one I would go after. So I like that pick. A.J. Dillon, 10th round for the Packers' third running back. I'm not into that at all. I feel like A.J. Dillon maybe would be like a 14th or 15th round pick. I can't see taking him that early. San Francisco defense, second defense off the board in the 11th. They lost a couple big players. I think that's a little early for a defense, but I mean, their defense still should be good this year, so I don't hate that one. Sammy Watkins in 12th. I mean, that's kind of neutral. Same with like Rager in the 14th. That's kind of just neutral. Austin Hooper in the 13th. I like that pick. Jake Elliott, kicker to close it out. I think that's not bad. Let's pull up our boy Hensel. And let's see. He did go Kamara at the 104. I thought that was a little up in the air with the injury, the epidural, the contracts. Obviously, the contract's settled now, but the epidural is definitely a big question mark. So we'll see how that plays out. I like it personally. I mean, Kamara, obviously, his upside is like running back 1, so you can't hate that at the 4. Galladay, I don't really like that. I think that he had a lot of touchdowns last year. Is he going to repeat that? That's kind of a question, especially him as the fifth wide receiver off the board. I like Godwin more. There's just other people I liked more at that pick. So A-Rob, I think in the 3rd, that's like about where he was going to go. And I think that he's another guy that's kind of a regression candidate this year. Like, he had a shit ton of targets last year. Is he going to repeat that? I don't know. The Bears were playing from behind because Trubisky sucks every game last year, so they were just chucking to someone. And I think that Anthony Miller's going into the year healthy. I think A-Rob probably isn't going to get as many targets as he did last year, but he's still very talented. So I'm kind of neutral on that pick. Calvin Ridley in the 4th, I like that pick a lot. Terry McLaurin in the 5th, I like that pick a lot. T.Y. in the 6th, I feel like that's not bad. I don't really feel strongly either way on that one. J.K. in the 7th, I don't feel super strongly about that one either, because it's like he's the backup to Ingram. And then you obviously, like I said with Ingram, you don't really have the receiving upside, so kind of like, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of volume there for him. Will Fuller in the 8th, I like that pick a lot. I think with Brandon Cooks there, with the injury question marks with Cooks, somebody's going to have to get those deep targets, and Will Fuller, I mean, it's his 5th year in the league, and he's never been healthy, but in the 8th round, you're not really spending that much capital on him. If he gets hurt, you're not really that mad. Latavius Murray, I feel like the same thing about Chase Edmonds. It's kind of early in my mind for a cuff, but that's his cuff, so I agree with the reach. Reach around early for the cuff on your running back. That's cool. So Henry Ruggs, I don't really feel strongly either way. Damian Harris, I mean, I don't want anything to do with the New England backfield, so that he can have that. Matt Ryan, I think in the 11th was a good pick. Baltimore 13th, good pick. Zane in the 14th, good pick. Hawkinson, I mean, we'll see what happens. I guess he has 2 Detroit receivers, so hopefully Hensel's hoping for a healthy year from Stafford. So let's jump to Kenny. Kenny, I was not really that big into his draft. He did take Derrick Henry from me. I know that was a big question in my last video. He did take him from me, so I like that pick. James Conner in the 2nd. I don't like that in the 2nd. He's just way too injury prone to be a 2nd round pick. Amari Cooper in the 3rd. I like that pick. The only thing is, Amari Cooper, can you play him against a good team with a good cornerback? Is that something you want to be thinking about with your 3rd round pick? We'll see, but in general, I like it. The Cowboys offense is going to put up big numbers this year. Cortland Sutton, I think, 4th rounds with Drew Lock, expected to probably play better this year. Not a bad pick. But when you think about it, like Calvin Ridley goes to pick after him, Robert Woods goes to pick after him. I like those guys way more. I just give it a neutral rating. Hunter Henry, I don't like that at all with the rookie. With Tyrod, I mean, the Chargers offense is just going to be bad this year. I'm not into Hunter Henry at all. I think Drew Brees in the 6th is a reach. I think, we got 1, 2, 3. I guess that's after Wilson, Murray, Watson go earlier in the 6th. So I guess if that's the range you want to get your quarterback, then I can see it. But I think that's a little early for Breeze. Mac in the 7th, not a bad pick. I guess he's gonna get the groundwork there. So not a bad pick. McCole Hardman. I mean, that's a punt returner, a kick returner in the 8th round. I think his range is more like the 12th round, so I think that's a bad pick. Mike Williams, Darrell Henderson, I don't really feel strongly about them. Jared Cook's an interesting pick because I think the doubling down of tight end for Kenny works with Cook and Henry. Especially because Hunter Henry's an injury-prone guy. Jared Cook, I saw a lot of mixed stuff about him this offseason. But as a person who had him at one point last season, like the touchdown to target ratio, it's like people were like, oh, he was so hot down the stretch last year, but he was getting like 3 targets a game. So I'm like, that's not a guy that you're like excited to throw out just because he got a touchdown. Like, we'll see how that works out. I'm neutral on that. Cam in the 12th, I like a lot. Brandon Ayuk. Basically, the rest of these picks, I'm just kind of neutral, and they're not bad. So let's bring in, we'll run through me real quick. There's not much that needs to be said about it. It was clearly the best draft amongst anybody. So, I mean, just green check marks down the board. That's really good to see. So I did go Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the 10, what was that, 06? Yeah, the 6, because basically for the reasons I outlined in my last video, Henry's off the board. That's kind of who my main target was, so I'm going CEH there. The Drake pick, it was kind of, I think I touched on that in the last pick, was kind of just the default pick for me. Eckler was off the board. Miles Sanders was off the board. Josh Jacobs was off the board. Those were the guys that I was really hoping would fall to me there. So Drake's there. I was going running back to start pretty much no matter what. So I'll take Drake. I think he played well down the stretch last year. So we'll see how that works out. And then, the big surprise for me here was 3rd round Jonathan Taylor. So basically what happened was, I'll pull up the full draft here. So basically what happened for me was I talked in my video that I was going Andrews in the 3rd as my primary guy. And basically we got to my pick and I was looking at it and I expected Lamar and Mahomes to both go before me, and I expected Kittle to go before me. So I was looking at it like after I pick, probably Lamar's definitely going to go. Kittle's definitely going to go. There's 2 right there, and I'm looking at Matt, who only took wide receivers. He's going to have to take running back. I assumed even running back. And I thought maybe Mandrews would fall to me in the 4th. You think you got to take some gambles sometimes. I thought Mandrews would maybe fall to me in the 4th, and then worst case scenario, I'd just take Waller if he didn't. So I went with the Jonathan Taylor pick there. I think a big surprise, and we'll see how that plays out. So back, and then I got Kareem in the 5th. Was definitely something I was looking to do. Tyler Boyd, Deontay, Presley Williams, Deshaun. I think obviously I said that I was going to go 4 out of 5, 4 out of 6. I think 4 out of 6 running backs in my first 6 picks, and I went 4 out of 5. So at that point, you're just stocking up on wide receivers. So that's what I did. Hayden Hurst in the 10th was not a guy that I was really trying to take, but he was there, and there really wasn't anybody that I was eyeing at that point, based on who I was, so it's like I'm at the 10th pick. I got 3 more skill position players, and then I got to go defense, kicker, quarterback. So I had 2 guys really in mind at that point that I wanted, Miller and Pittman. And Hayden Hurst was kind of there. I thought the 10th round was like pretty fair value for him. I thought that was about where he should go. And, maybe he plays well. I can trade. Maybe he plays well. I can trade him. Maybe Darren Waller gets hurt in the first 2 weeks. And at least I have a backup option that I like. So we'll see how that. I kind of give myself a neutral on that one because I wasn't super into it. Pittman, I give a neutral to just because he's kind of a dart throw at that point. Maybe he's the next Vincent Jackson. Maybe he doesn't do anything. I drop him, but you gotta have somebody that's droppable on your team for those early waiver wire pickups. And then Justin Tucker, I liked as the third kicker off the board. I saw there's 2 kickers starting to go, so I was like, why don't I just take my kicker here? At that point, only 3 or 4 defenses had gone off the board, so I wasn't going to reach on like a top defense. I had a couple in mind that I was going to take, probably either Dallas or Tennessee or the Colts was who I was looking at. So Colts ended up going before me, Dallas ended up going before me, and I was like, give me Tennessee. Jadeveon Clowney had his best year with when Mike Vrabel was the defensive coordinator for Houston, so he's under Vrabel again. I think he's kind of in a show me what you got kind of year with the contract that he has. So I think the Titans defense is going to be solid. I think we'll just roll with them. They're in a pretty bad division. They get the Jags twice. Houston's not going to be as good as they were this year. Colts are kind of a question mark. So I like that pick. And then, like I said earlier, Andrew stole Burrow from me, but then I was looking at the board and I'm like, oh, Stafford's here in the 15th round. Give me that. I think that's arguably could be my best pick in the draft. So I really liked my draft, how it came out. Let's jump over to T-Rev. And let's get me out of there. Trevor had an okay draft, I thought. Dalvin Cook right after me, so the 7th pick. Dalvin Cook, obviously we saw last year the talent is there, the upside's there. Just the injury history scares me away from him, so I give that a neutral. I personally would have gone probably Mixon or Josh Jacobs over him. Sanders, I would have gone over him if it wasn't for the injury, but the contract situation is resolved, so I'll give that a neutral. Kelsey in the 2nd, you can't really hate that pick. Le'Veon in the 3rd, I think that's a bad pick. Cooper Kupp, I don't like that pick either because to drop some red pills on you, when the Rams offensive line started playing super bad in the second half last year, I think it was around week 8 or 11, somewhere between there, somewhere around or in between there. They switched to a lot of 2 tight end sets, which moved Kupp from the slot to the outside, and he did not play nearly as well from the outside as he did in the slot. And at the same time, Robert Woods' numbers spiked up big time when they went to those 2 tight end sets. So I think that Kupp's going to not have as good of a year as he did last year to start the season even too, because last year his second half of his season was not that great. I think Woods is the guy to own in LA, so I give that a thumbs down. Can't make her some kind of neutral on. We'll see what happens. Sean McVay was like, oh, we're going with the 3 running back approach, so it's kind of not what you want to be hearing. Hollywood Brown, that was a snipe right there. The pick before me, I was all lined up. I was like, Hollywood's right there for the taking, and then T-Rev pulled the trigger on that. I ended up with Tyler Boyd, so I like that pick a lot. Jarvis Landry, I think that's a good pick in the 7th round. Debo in the 8th, I'm not that into because he's hurt. You don't really know what the deal is with him, and I think that there was like startable receivers around that range still. I like Preston Williams over him personally. I like Jamison Crowder, I think, over him personally. So I'm not that into that. Carry on, I'm not into at all. They bring in AP. That Swift's going to take over eventually, so I'm not into the carry on pick. Josh Allen in the 10th round, I like that pick a lot. I think Allen could have reached as early as maybe the 7th round for him, and it wouldn't have been a bad pick. So I like that pick a lot. The rest, I don't really feel strongly about either way. Benny Snell, I think, good backup to have in the 14th. I think good backup to have for James Conner, since he might get hurt. Probably will get hurt, you should say. So I think T-Rev had an okay draft. I'm not too against it, not too for it. And let's pull up the reigning champ, Eli. I think had an okay draft. Mixon and Eckler, his first 2 picks, I like those. Can't really hate on that. I think I might have said that in my first video. If you're coming away with a pair like that to start your draft, you're pretty happy with it. Kittle, I got to give it a neutral because the thing with Kittle is he had that labrum issue that he didn't have surgery on, and I read that it's basically a 50-50 chance that he re-injures that, and if he re-injures it, it requires surgery. So, I mean, if in the late third round, that's why I give it a neutral rating, because I think in the late third rounds, it's not a bad pick. I mean, I personally would have gone Mandrews over him, and then Cove takes Mandrews the next pick. So I give it a neutral rating. A.J. Brown, I like that pick. Chark, I like that pick a lot. Fifth round, I like Chark a lot too. I think he was a guy I honestly maybe would have considered at my pick. Or actually, no, I took Kareem. Never mind. I was reading it backwards, or reading the order backwards. I mean, I like Chark. I talked about that in my last video. So Russell Wilson in the 6th. That's a good pick. Gallup, kind of neutral on. I personally like CeeDee Lamb more. Tariq Cohen, honestly, I lean giving that a bad pick, but with Montgomery going into the season hurt, I think that's a neutral. Breida, kind of neutral on. Again, it's like Miami. Do you really want the running back there? Madison, that's just a cuff. Higbee, kind of neutral on because he put up good numbers when Gerald Everett was out last year, but Everett's healthy this year, so going into the year, so neutral. Lazard, I like that pick. Buffalo defense, I like. I think they could be really good this year. And then the rest two kind of just neutral on. So let's jump to Cove. And Cove, I think he had an okay draft. Michael Thomas, I mean, it's tough for me to give Michael Thomas a thumbs down because obviously he's Michael Thomas, but I just think, like I talked about in my first video, you got to be running backs this year. You got to be going running back. And I think Josh Jacobs was still on the board. I really like Josh Jacobs a lot there, so I personally would have gone Jacobs over him, but I don't think that's necessarily a fair rating to give that a thumbs down, but it is what it is. Aaron Jones, I don't like that pick. Personally, I think that was kind of lightning in the bottle last year. Eckler, Drake, I like more than him, so I don't like that. Mandrews, I like that pick a lot. Obviously, we don't really need to talk on that too much. Melvin Gordon, I think in the 4th, I like that pick. I think that some people, I saw him going as high as the 3rd, and I didn't like him in the 3rd, but I think in the 4th, that's a good pick. Mostert, kind of neutral on. I just don't really know what to expect from him or San Francisco. Gibson, I think that was too early for Gibson. I mean, it's still the Washington offense. They're still not good. The opportunities might be there, but like, are they really there with the touch? You know, is there touchdown upside? There's not a lot of scoring upside on that offense. So I think that's just too early for that. Brady, I think this was a little early for Brady to 7th. I mean, I was talking in my last video about getting him in the 12th. So I like the pick. I think it was a reach. That's why I just give it a neutral rating. CeeDee Lamb, I like that pick a lot in the 8th. Sterling Shepard, I don't really feel strongly about that. Jerry Jeudy, I like that pick in the 10th. I think it's a good upside play. If Drew Lock plays better, then boom, you got the upside there. Wentz in the 11th, I like, but he already took a quarterback. Now that I see that, honestly, I would change that rating to a bad because I don't think you shouldn't be drafting 2 quarterbacks. So I'm gonna have to revisit that in my rankings. Golden Tate, I mean, I guess if you're playing roulette for amongst the Giants wide receivers, Cove's got 2 out of 3, so we'll see how that plays out. The rest, just kind of neutral. I don't feel that strongly. So let's get Vince. So I'm gonna be honest, I thought Vince had probably one of the better drafts here. He started very strong. The draft this year was Vince, Jordan, and I at Jordan's apartment, holding it down for those still drafting in Tampa. And I told him, at the draft, I liked the Josh Jacobs pick a lot. He took Sanders coming around. It's tough. Obviously I would have wanted Sanders to come back to me in the 2nd round, but he's an Eagles fan, so I kind of expected that to happen. Thielen in 3rd, I like that a lot. I think honestly Thielen could finish as a top wide receiver this year because Kirk loves him. There's nobody else to throw. There's no Diggs now. There's nobody else to throw to that Kirk likes that much. So I like to pick a lot. OBJ in the 4th, I think. Ooh, this was what kind of lost me though because Vince started the draft. And I was like, honestly, I like his team more than mine. But then the OBJ and Fournette are just Fournette in the 5th. Like Arians was still saying that Rojo was his starter. So that was honestly, I don't know if he'll be able to overcome that. And then the Browns, it's just the Browns are a run-first offense. I think OBJ
is kind of like he had that hot start to his career, and he really hasn't been like a top wide receiver for probably 3-4 years now, and I just don't see the upside there because I think that the Browns are going to be not that high scoring, and they're going to be a run first team. So that's another example where I would just say, like, you know, AJ Brown still on the board, Ridley still on the board, Woods still on the board. I like those guys better. Kyler Murray, I like in the 6th. I like that pick a lot. Evan Ingram, I don't like. He's going to get hurt. He's playing with a screw in his foot this year from the Liz Frank injury, so he's going to get re-hurt. I don't know. Re-injured probably makes more sense. Zach Moss in the 8th. I like that pick. A little early. I mean, I was hoping that I could maybe get him in the 9th or 10th, but Zach Moss, I like that pick. Christian Kirk, I kind of feel neutral on. I think it depends if Kyler Murray progresses. Then I think Kirk's a good pick. We'll see. Sony Michel, I give a neutral because, I mean, yeah, the volume might be there, but Sony Michel's numbers when Devlin, the fullback, is out last year were bad, and Devlin retired, so I just don't know. Personally, I'm off the New England backfield altogether, so we'll see how that plays out. The Rodgers pick, kind of my same thing that I just said with Carson Wentz about Cove. I like the pick, but it's a second quarterback, so I'm not that into it. I'm probably going to change that to a neutral. Justin Jackson, I think that's a good pick at the 12. The rest, normal picks, we'll give them I'm neutral on those. And then let's pull up Mike. So Mike had an interesting start, kind of going the alternate route. I like Devontae Adams a lot. If it wasn't for the turf toe last year, he would have been a beast. So I like that pick a lot at the 11, especially with MT off the board already. Chubb in the 2nd, I think that's about where Chubb goes. I think that's a good pick. And then Lamar in the late 3rd, I mean, that's just a pick that you're not going to regret. Especially, Lamar could have gone in the early 3rd. I would have said it was a good pick because he's just ultimately such a high-scoring player. It's not a pick you're going to regret. So where I think that he kind of fucked up is the next 3 picks were wide receivers, and he should have started loading on running backs here because I think that's his team's ultimate downfall is his RB2 is a guy that's not going to be the starter by the end of the year. His RB3 is a guy that isn't the starter right now. I mean, I think you just compare that to a team like mine, and the depth is just, it's not even comparable. Like, look at my RB4 is Kareem Hunt. His RB4 he doesn't even have an RB4. Like, his RB2, it's just different strategies, I guess, but I don't see Mike finishing this year unless he gets a big free agent pickup, which you never know. But I think that's something you can't really count on. We saw last year, Cove just 6 out of 6 picks in the draft finishes the highest scoring team. So we'll see how he does. Mike's a good manager. We'll see how he does. Gronk, I don't like that pick in the 9th. I think that's too early. They already have OJ Howard and Cameron Brate, so I think 9th round, that's way too early for Gronk. Tampa Bay defense, I like that, but in the 10th rounds, I think that's a little early for a defense, but there's always defenses that go early, so N'Keal Harry, I like that as a good upside play in the 11th. Guy I would have considered taking if things were different. The rest, I don't really feel strong on. I give Young Ho the thumbs up, and somebody, you got to give Young Ho the thumbs up. Now let's look at probably the worst draft in the history of drafts, possibly ever. Our boy, Corrupt Commish, Matt. Just, you just look at it and you're just like, what was he thinking? I mean, Tyreek and Julio. Good players, but for your first 2 picks, I mean, you got to get a running back in there, dude. You got to get he passed on Chubb, Sanders, Eckler, even Aaron Jones. He passed on Drake. all for David Johnson as his RB1. I basically guarantee David Johnson's going to get hurt. Like, there's no chance that David Johnson plays 16 games and that's your RB1. Like, and then, I mean, it's tough because I like DJ Moore. I like DJ Moore in the 4th round. I think that's a good pick. I think that's good value. DJ Moore could have gone early 3rd. Honestly, I would have liked to pick. But again, no running backs. Diggs, I feel like I'm neutral on. He has definitely high upside, but he's in a run-first offense at the end of the day. And like I said about Hopkins, first year on a new team, new quarterback, wide receivers never do that well. So Deshaun Watson in the 6th. I don't even like that, honestly, because, I give it a neutral because Deshaun Watson, obviously the talent's there, but I think the Texans offense just isn't going to be that good this year. Marvin Jones, I don't feel strongly about. James White in the 8th. I like that pick, but I don't like that as your RB2. I think James White's like a nice flex play in the 8th round. I don't think he's a sustainable RB2. Duke Johnson, I mean, I guess if you're taking old man David Johnson, you got to get his cuff, but Duke Johnson's not really usable. Darrell Williams is a backup. Naheem Hines is a backup. Jaceki, I mean, his numbers, the volume might be there, but like he's kind of a touchdown dependent guy. Indy defense I like. Devonta Freeman's not even on a team, so enough said. Pretty bad draft overall. This was definitely my least favorite draft. So let's look at the rankings here. I have to pull this up real quick. All right, so we got the rankings up. So obviously, these are the on paper rankings. I give myself the best draft, obviously. Basically, 13 picks I think are hitters. 2 picks I think I'm neutral on. Andrew graded out nicely on paper, definitely. Eli graded out on paper nice. I looked at that and I'm like, well, he really didn't have any picks that I disliked, but he had a lot that I was kind of neutral on. Hensel, same thing. No picks that I really disliked. A lot that I was neutral on though. Vince had a lot of picks I liked. Little mix of ones I didn't like we talked about in that 4th and 5th round. I think he fucked in, and I guess 4 to 6 because you lump Evan Ingram in there. He kind of fucked that up a little bit, but Jordan I think had an okay draft. Mike had an okay draft. Jared had an okay draft. Cove okay. Trevor okay. I think Kenny and Matt definitely are the bottom 2 drafts for me personally. Kenny just too many injury prone players, not really enough upside. Matt, I mean, just bad strategy. Like, he doesn't have a running back. You're not going to win. That's the most important position in fantasy football is running back, and he faded it. So, I mean, I don't see how you can't give him the last place ranking in the drafts. Now, on paper, those were my rankings, but if I got to go with my gut here, I'm looking at the board. Let's pull that up real quick, in fact. All right, so we're back. The big board. I can't get rid of this logo unless I eventually pay for it. Maybe we'll do that. On paper, those are my rankings. Real life, obviously, I think I have the best team. I like Vince. I think he can overcome. I think OBJ isn't still going to get numbers. I just don't think he has the upside that he could have got at that pick. Fournette, I mean, really Fournette and Ingram I would say are bad picks, but I like Vince's team. I would probably rate Vince's team second for my gut rankings. I like Andrew's team a lot. My gut rankings, I'd probably give him the 3. Hensel, pretty good. I think I give him the 4. I think Jordan, I just don't know with Jordan because it depends on Gurley, and it's like he has Rojo though, so maybe that makes up for it a little bit. I probably give Jordan around the 5. Probably throw it's at that, and at that point it's a mix. That's probably my top 5 would be me, Vince, Andrew, Hensel, Jordan. I think you could lump maybe the next 5 kind of all together, like Jared, Trevor, Eli, Cove, Mike. I think you kind of just lump them together as like the middle range guys, and then the bottom tier, obviously, Kenny and Matt. So yeah, that's it. I think it was a very solid year, or a very solid draft. Going to be a solid year of fantasy. I think time-wise, this is gonna another long video. I try to keep it short, but I gotta let the knowledge flow. So stay tuned. Week 1 preview is gonna be coming soon. I'm gonna be holding myself more accountable with better scheduling, and we're gonna be pumping content out. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Comment. If you hate it, comment. Let me know why. If you think I have an annoying voice, if you think I'm ugly, let's hear it. I need those comments for the algorithm. So subscribe. More videos coming. We're going to be documenting the season. We're going to be rolling this season. Championship is coming. So ride with me through the journey of more success if you want to see the championship as I win it live all season. Peace.